How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Davey on everything, and welcome back to the solo show. Today, we were doing a solo show. Dan could not make it. Again, busy man, lots going on. And I did have two guests secured for today's episode. They were supposed to roll over about right now, and I just heard from them. And as you could probably tell, they're not gonna make it, and I'm just here alone, and that's totally okay because the show must go on, and I'm here to put it on. So let me have a sip of this beer quick. Alrighty. So last week we did the 30th episode of the normal podcast, and on that episode I had my dad on it. It was such a fun episode to film. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. He has some pretty wacky stories about his childhood and just growing up, and some pretty cool stuff there. You can actually learn a few things as well. I should start out because I never do this. I'm super bad at doing this, guys. I'm going to get you guys to go ahead and check out our sponsor. Go check out our sponsor. That is brokenglasssupply.ca. If you need any kind of smoking paraphernalia, they have all kinds of awesome products on there. So go ahead and check them out and see. Free shipping over $50, guys. And they have all kinds of cool stuff. So go have a look at that. In today's episode, I don't really have a huge laid-out plan or anything because, again, I got bailed on, so this is kind of me just, we need to put something out. We need to film something, so I'm going to try and make this episode fun and whatever else, and probably not informative or anything like that because I'm an idiot, but here we go. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. Alrighty, guys, so the last week or two, not quite 2 weeks, really 2 weeks is being very generous in this case, I've been trying to give the whole live stream thing a go. And I've been on Twitch, and I've been doing IRL streams, and specifically, I've just been out in my neighborhood walking and talking about some of the crazy shit that has gone down in my neighborhood or the ongoing nonsense that is happening in my neighborhood. And you know what? I thought it would be something I was way less comfortable doing, but it turns out that it's not quite as hard as I thought it was going to be. So I've never live streamed before. Besides like a little bit at my house, on my computer or whatever, I actually took my phone out, I put it on a selfie stick tripod situation, and I just hit the block. And we went and checked out an abandoned pool. We had to look at some crackhead havens, and although nothing seriously crazy happened, we got to see some cool spots. I was definitely a lot more comfortable than I thought it was going to be, and that could also be because I didn't really run into anybody that really gave a shit that I was out here streaming my day away. But it was a lot of fun, and I had a few people join the stream, which is pretty cool, and I could just kind of get comfortable doing that. And that's something I really want to get into a lot more is the live streaming thing. There's lots of kind of crazy spots around where I live, and we can definitely run into some characters along the way. So I'm going to really try and make an effort to do that every weekend because that's when I have time. And hopefully I can make some cool content and you guys can follow. I was streaming on the Everything is Broken podcast Twitch, but for some reason it was fucking with me and it wouldn't work, so I switched over to the Davey on Everything Twitch. So if you want to go follow that, it's at Davey on Everything. And I was trying to get on Kick, and I don't know, my shit just wasn't working out. It wasn't lining up, and I couldn't make it happen. So I just went with Twitch. I actually was on YouTube for a minute, but it just seemed like that's not the place to be streaming. So I was on Twitch, and so there'll be future live streams out in real life coming up, and so go ahead and give that a follow too. As far as the podcast goes, my main mission and goal of the podcast right now is to get guests and get cool guests and have a consistent influx of people coming on the show. And in part because that just makes for better content, like 100% just better content. And people seem to interact a lot more with it. But also because Dan is so busy and he can't always make it. So I need someone to kind of fill in the spot, because if you've watched these solo episodes, like, they're not terrible or anything, but they're just not as entertaining as the normal episodes. So if I can get away from doing the solo show and just having cool guests on, that's where I want to get to. So I'm kind of in the process of finding avenues of securing guests. So I know there's like websites you can join that are just have people that are looking to get on podcasts to promote whatever they're doing. So I'm kind of dabbling with that. And this one is kind of wild, but I'm on Bumble. And if you don't know what Bumble is, it's a dating site, dating app. But they also have two other categories, which are Bumble BFF, which is for finding friends, and Bumble Biz. So on Bumble Biz, I have made a profile that is basically trying to reach out to people that are looking to do video production, online content, and stuff like that. Maybe someone can help produce, or someone can be on the show regularly. And so that's another avenue I've been trying to take, as well as just reaching out on social media platforms. I got a couple people that responded to a post that I made about needing people for today. So the guests that were going to come, they've responded, but also a few other people also responded. It didn't end up being anything serious. People responded, and maybe they wanted to come on, but it just didn't end up being, nothing came into fruition. So like I said, I'm here solo, and but that is the main mission of this podcast now, is to just I want to get more of an interview process going as well, and sharing some laughs and some stories with people too. So I think people really respond well to other people's stories, and there's lots of cool people out in the world that have cool stories, and I would like to get them on this show. So if you know anybody, or if you want to be on the show and you live in southwestern Ontario, hit me up and let's see, maybe we can make something happen. Woo! Okay. On today's episode, this isn't going to be a super long episode or anything, but one thing that's just kind of been on my mind that, I've really, it's something I've just living where I live, especially, it's something I think about quite a bit, and is just the use of illegal drugs, opioids, and amphetamines, and whatever else that are rampant in my area, and in most cities as well. Most cities have the issue, but there's kind of almost like two camps when it comes to how you deal with, the drug crisis and fentanyl and all these things. And there's two camps. One camp is kind of saying, it's almost three camps. Well, let's just put it into two. One camp is like hardline. We need to take a hard stance on drugs, and people that are out here ingesting banned substances, we need to have a hard stance with them and get them basically. Essentially, is what I'm saying is that they want the police and the government to take a harder stance on drug use in the form of prison time and sentences and forced rehabilitation and stuff like that. Like more of a prohibition stance. You know what I mean? And I saw that a lot. So I went to a community safety meeting, emergency community safety meeting at City Hall about a month ago, and it was open to the public. So you can go up there and you can actually talk to city officials, the chief of police, the mayor, etc. And you can kind of voice what you think should be the solution to these issues. And a lot of people held that stance. Like one guy directly said, like, we need more prisons and we need more mandatory rehab. And another lady, her thing was like, well, I was addicted to drugs as well, and the only thing that got me clean was being in rehab for a year straight. And when she came out, she had learned the skills to stay off of it. And now she's a proponent of improving the neighborhood. So there's that camp. The other camp is like decriminalize and stop wasting tax dollars and locking people up when they're just coming back out on the street and doing the same thing again and cycle in and cycle out. And that camp is mostly kind of like, let these people make their own bed type of thing and stop using tax dollars to support people that are not willing to support themselves. And I think the third camp is kind of in that camp, which is provide people with help, clean needles, and safe injection sites and stuff like that. So those are kind of like the three options. I think all of them have probably been tried, and I want to say the success rate is probably pretty fucking low. I know where I live, the stance is kind of on the like the police aren't arresting people for doing drugs, right? And that's more or less like because they get in, there's overcrowding, and it's just a costly situation, and they just come back out and do it all over again. So they're kind of not really arresting people for it. And contrary to what the police said at the safety meeting, there's almost no police presence in the area, and there's been a lot of assaults and break-ins. So the other, and then they also have a lot of community resource, and that's why everyone everyone does it around my area, because there's a lot of community resources. So around here, that's kind of the stance they take as far as like they want to help people and they want to keep them from using dirty needles and whatever else. And as far as where I stand is, if you watch this show, you know that I am, I'm not opposed to helping people, but I'm also very much on the side of like, I want to see my tax dollars go to productive things, and I'm also big on people helping themselves. So you can kind of figure out partially where I stand, but I also recognize that these are all things that aren't actually helping anybody. Okay, so there's a homeless camp behind my house, right? It was causing huge issues in the neighborhood, and rats and garbage, and everyone's kind of camped together, and there's, it was costing the city a lot of money because, and by the city I mean taxpayers, because they had construction dumpsters, porta potties, and they've had full-time security guards, and the neighborhood frankly was tired of it. So the city actually went and shut down the camp, and they pushed everybody out of there. Now, on paper, that looks great because you don't have this massive horde of people taking up a parking lot. But then it starts to make you think, well, where are all these people where are they going? Where are they going to go? Well, kind of what ended up happening was you just had all these people wandering the neighborhood now. And I think you can make the argument that they were better off being in one spot and not walking around into people's houses. And there's been a lot of break-ins and a lot of assaults. So I got into it with a few guys the other day because they made a complete fucking disaster, and they threw all this garbage around, and Buddy ended up basically threatening my life, So I just asked him to clean it up basically, and it didn't go so hot. But what happened was they moved to a public park, and that's not a better solution either. So the cops had to come through, give him an ultimatum, give him a deadline on when they had to leave, and now you just have this population of people kind of wandering around full time, and that's nobody wants that either. So as far as decriminalizing drugs go, let's get back to the main point was, should we decriminalize drugs or make them or even go as far as making them legal? I used to say 100% yes. And partially is because I can see that criminalizing drugs isn't doing anything, and they're not even enforcing it. So why not just decriminalize them? But also I'm a freedom guy. So even though I don't think it's good for you, who am I to tell you not to put fentanyl in your body? And you could go a million different ways with this, because if I say that, I'm also saying, like, you do drugs, and if you OD and you have to go to a hospital, I'm paying for that as well. It's just a whole kind of camp of, like, decisions that branch off into other decisions. But I don't know if decriminalizing it would actually slow the use of drugs. I think maybe at best it would take some of the criminal element out of it, which is a good thing. And especially if you could, like, eliminate, organizations like cartels and gangs and pull them right out of the equation, I think that could be a positive thing. But I think you're also going to get a certain amount of people that are now going to try these drugs that normally wouldn't because of fear of repercussion. And there's going to be a certain percentage of people that are going to now get hooked on, on hard drugs that normally wouldn't even go near them. And then you kind of have to weigh it out. Like, okay, how much did we create more damage? Have we saved more lives? Like, there's just a lot of math to the whole situation. But I think it's probably worth a shot. And I think the city of Vancouver has done that now. And ironically, like, there was one man who opened up a store selling heroin and cocaine and whatever else he was selling. He eventually OD'd on those drugs. So it's like, is that an example of like a microcosm of what's going to happen at a larger scale? And then you kind of hear stories like Portugal. I apparently decriminalized drugs years ago, and it helped. And I'm sure there's other societies that have done the same, and they've had positive results from it. But I'm always kind of caught halfway into this, like, web of, like, decisions, and always halfway into helping people opposed to just letting people make their own bed. I'm probably the wrong guy to ask about the problem of addiction and drugs in the community. But all I know is that in my immediate vicinity where I live, it's a genuine problem that I see firsthand every single day. And yeah, I don't really know the solution. But, I'm just kind of at the point where it's like, I don't know what to do. I'm also, it seems like the people in charge don't know what to do. Because here's another example. And this is, I'm kind of crossing between homelessness and drug addicts. But in Kitchener, Ontario, they had a large homeless camp on a main road. And that homeless camp ends up getting closed down because they open up a mini house camp closer to the outside of the city. Actually, I think they moved it to Waterloo. And they had a shuttle going back and forth so people could a lot of these people still need to get down to either community outreach programs or somewhere they can buy their drugs or get their methadone. And so they had this shuttle that was taking people back and forth. And the camp disappeared. Like, they basically moved everybody, minus, like, one guy. And, it's fast forward 6 months or whatever, and if you go drive down there right now, it's completely full again. There's, I don't know how many tents. I couldn't even tell you how many tents were down there, but it's like they came up with this solution, which probably wasn't cheap, but seemed like a pretty solid solution. These people had mini houses with air conditioning and bathrooms and all the modern conveniences. And at the end of the day, they still chose to live out in a tent downtown instead of living in a nice, safe environment, just kind of closer to the edge of the city. So what I'm saying with that is, like, it's just at the point where I don't know if there's an actual genuine working solution for the homeless problem / the drug crisis that's going on right now. And I mean, there's got to be something you can do. It just seems like nobody knows how to handle it, and it seems like there's two main camps, and both are almost kind of extreme measures that don't really seem to please anybody. So I don't know, guys. Let me know what you feel about that. We've talked about it a few times on the show, but I can never figure out where I stand with this whole thing. And I'm in a position where I see it every day, and I see people affected by this shit every day. And it's hard to have any kind of empathy, because you know that if given the chance, they would fuck your shit up, or they would steal from you, or you know what I mean, or they would assault you. Not everybody, but there's a good core of them that are doing that actively. So it's kind of hard to be like, want to help people that don't want to help themselves, I think is kind of what I'm saying. And I know growing up, I grew up in downtown Kitchener, and there was always these people. These people have existed forever, I'm sure. But it's just, the sheer volume has increased so much, and the drugs have gotten harder and stronger, and arguably dirtier because all the fentanyl that's happening. And I think it's just, I don't know, it's pretty crazy. You look at places like Philadelphia and Los Angeles, and I can't even imagine how they would ever begin to plan on fixing these issues, because it's just so far gone in places like that. On a lighter note, guys, I had the opportunity recently to go see a show. Okay, so I don't know how far really the reach or the fan base goes, but when I was growing up, there was a show called Kenny Vs Spenny. It was on Showcase, and it was basically two guys from Toronto competing in these ridiculous competitions with each other. Examples of these competitions: who can wear a squid on their head the longest, who can go the longest with a shit in their diaper, who can get the most sex, you know what I mean? Just crazy stuff like that. Today would never make it on cable network, not a chance. But I know it did kind of reach international levels. Anyways, me and my brother actually went and saw them live the other day at a venue in Kitchener, and it was a small venue, but the show, what I really, really appreciated about it was the sheer. You felt like you were in 2006, because it was just totally unfiltered, classic, crude comedy, and I love that shit. Like that, for me, I would like to see more of that again. I mean, we're living in a different time now where that kind of shit is not really happening. Like, people aren't really making that kind of content anymore, even on the internet, because everyone's so worried about being monetized. But sitting in that theater listening to these guys and them telling their jokes and going over the old episodes, and it felt good, because you had this group of people in there with you that also understood what they were about to see, and the jokes were just totally unfiltered, and just, it reminded me of when I was a kid, and where you can make a really fucked up joke without somebody getting all sour about it. So that was really fun. I think they're still on tour, so if you're interested in seeing them live, I definitely would recommend it. It's the Kenny Vs Spenny, I think, 20th anniversary tour, and they're pretty much, I think they're mostly in Ontario, but they're touring in Canada too. So, and they always seem like they're touring. Sorry, but if you're just looking for some ridiculous, dumb, ignorant comedy from two fucking funny Canadian legends, go ahead and check out Kenny Vs Spenny live, because me and my brother had a fucking riot. And there was one dude, this really, really drunk dude. He came alone. He had a fucking cowboy hat on, and he was just basically drunk and being obnoxious, and he was taunting the opener. And eventually what ends up happening is Spenny, who's performing, he jumps into the audience, and the guy that took our tickets, they ended up dragging his ass out of the theater. And like, they got him in the dude that took our tickets, he wasn't a security guard. There's no security at this place. No ushers or anything. It's just the staff. It's actually a small movie theater. And the guy that took our tickets ends up putting him in a fucking master lock and drags that guy out of there. And it was fun. Everyone's like, woo! They were all cheering up a storm and having a blast. It was too fucking funny. And, in perfect Kenny Vs Spenny fashion as well. So, it's just cool to see shows like that still existing. And the funniest part is, like, they're making all these, like, really fucked up jokes about, they were making all these jokes that would never pass now, you know what I mean, about sexuality and Jews and whatever else, right? Because they're both Jewish. And then like on the glass of this theater, they had all these like inclusive stickers, you know what I mean? And it's funny, the show kind of opened up with like I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was just like this, it was some kind of slur, and the crowd roars, and on the outside of the glass is all these like very inclusive, protective stickers. Alrighty guys, well I'm going to end this episode right here. Let me know what you think about the current war on drugs and the war on the homeless, or the how we're going to solve these issues, this homeless problem, or the fentanyl crisis. Let me know what you think about that, because I'm genuinely curious. I personally don't have any kind of like hard stance on it. And I'm not sure how society is going to go about fixing these problems, but I would love to hear what you guys have to think about it. And again, go check out our sponsor, thebrokenglasssupply.ca. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please check out our TikTok, like, comment, subscribe, that whole deal. It means so fucking much to me, guys, and I appreciate it more than you can ever know. So until next time, guys, I'm Davey on everything. Thank you so much for coming out and watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Big G's, no design on my jacket. Work hard, I'm changing my bracket. Talk tough, we ain't hear that racket. Dogs came in, you know how to stack it. Don't take it wrong, but I'ma need my ends though. I got tigers on my chest like Kenzo. Rail came, yeah, he putting that Benz though. Carol's here, man, you know you stay 10 toes. Big dog, man, you know I ain't worried. Bent up, so I'm talking real slurry. Got a blast, bro, I'm always in a hurry. Big Drake, shooting dirty like Curry. Take a yerky, ain't know he stay passed up. You don't catch him late night, do you ass out? No, real, how to put it E-class up. They like, X nigga, how you take the fast ride? 2018, it was me and Big